Yes, Mr.
Is it possible,
Just
Mr.
say who you
Karras,
are.
Yes, Kyriakos Choupras, I'm a Cyprus journalist, ages in this country. Can we have your own interpretation, Mr. Karras, of this new stage in the Turkish policy of zero problems with neighbors?
Yes.
Do you think this is a sincere effort to solve problems, serious problems, of course,
Yes.
for its own benefit at the same time, and the region's benefit, of course? Or is it part of a policy which doesn't exclude the first element, but at the same time wants to increase its prestige internationally for big powers?
These are not in opposition, Mr. Tsoukas.
Yes, they are not, but, well, there is an element of a deliberate policy to be more influential internationally, of course.
Yes. But as I say, these are not in opposition. I think that Ahmed Davutoglu, who is a subtle and very intelligent man, has picked up on something the United States has been saying for a very long time. Turkey is a Muslim country, majority Muslim country, vastly majority Muslim country, Sunni Muslim at that, which is, however, more Western than the others. And therefore, we want to give Turkey particular attention. That has been an American position for as many years as I can remember. The Davutoglu has picked up on that and has said, do we use that for short-term benefit to keep down the Kurds, to hold on to Cyprus, do we do it for that, which is what the traditional Turkish leadership, above all the military leadership, did? Or is it more in Turkey's national interest to emerge as the most important medium-sized power in this part of the world? Well, I have to tell you that I think Mr. Davutoglu is quite right. And I don't say that in any other way than in the sense that it is the best thing for Turkey. It is the best thing economically because it means that you have lots of open doors of people who want to trade with you because you are the power which is opening doors. It is the best for your prestige internally, particularly among Sunni Muslims, and that is their change in approach to the Israeli-Palestinian dispute is a very good example of this. I mean, that is very clearly aimed at the whole of the Islamic world and at their own voters within Turkey, very clearly aimed. And they have got incredibly strong. I'll tell you a story which perhaps I shouldn't say. When the famous contretemps between Erdogan and Perez happened at Davos, we were having a Greek-Turkish forum meeting in Athens. And all our Turkish colleagues were horrified. What an error! My God, Erdogan has made a terrible mistake. Not my God, because they're all secularists, but anyhow. Erdogan has made a terrible mistake. The next day, the opinion polls come out in Turkey. All the Turkish people are delighted. He understood his public opinion very much better than the secularists who represent Turkey abroad. So, I think that I would not make this opposition that you're making. I would say that on the contrary, put them together. Davutoglu is saying that I am able both to play a bigger role in the world objectively and to increase my country's prestige by following this policy. Now we come to the problem. Is Davutoglu able and willing, this is what part of the logic that I was talking about, is Davutoglu now able and willing to say, okay, this is in Turkey's interest, and now I'm going to knock the heads in of the people who are opposing the applications of the policy here, and there. Well, now, we've seen they have knocked the heads in of the people opposing their policy in the Kurdish-speaking regions of Turkey. They have, these PKK fighters came down and gave themselves up, and the secularist opposition, sort of said, chop off their heads. I mean, they didn't say chop off their heads, but the equivalent. And they said no. We have seen the beginnings of a change towards Armenia. It hasn't yet got past the Turkish Grand National Assembly. I don't even know whether they will dare to pass it, because there are a lot of nationalists inside the AKP too, and never forget it. In Cyprus, they haven't begun. The logic of the situation suggests they must begin, but they haven't yet begun. There are two questions.
Yes.
Rob Holland, the last bit of what you said bears on the
main question in my mind. I mean, you've said, of course, that Turkey will have to put out all the stops over the Cyprus issue. And yet, the Kurdish problem is far more important to the AKP regime, isn't it?
Yes, of course it is.
And they're already running risks on the Kurdish issue, as you know. Are they, when they balance these things out, going to risk so much on the Cyprus issue when they're already running into such difficulty?
I don't know the answer to
Over
the question.
Kurdish
It's
Kurds.
only they who can balance the risks. But I would say that so far, the risks they have taken on the Kurdish problem have come heads for them. Both politically, and the army is in a weaker position within Turkey than it has ever been in any time in my lifetime since 1960. Because up until 1960, you had a totally different situation. You did not have the army in politics, and you had the Democratic Party, the Menderes regime. From the 1960 coup on, the army has dominated Turkish politics until 2007. The first time that the army got a no, and the people voted against what the army wanted, was in 2007. That is all of 47 years, for all practical purposes, half a century. Now, I agree with you that the situation is dicey. I agree with you that only somebody who knows the ins and outs of what is happening and the possible coups and all the rest of the things can know how they're going to play it. I am convinced that the reason, I'm convinced but I can't prove it, okay, I make that distinction. I am convinced that the reason Erdogan demanded the 10 points in the famous Ziyal letter at Bergenstock in end of March 2004 was that there was a genuine fear of a coup, which we later learned about through the Nokta diaries, and that he was genuinely worried. And that it was held off, the coup was held off by General Özkök, the Chief of General Staff, refusing to go along with the coup, and some commanders around the country saying, no, we don't want a coup now. And that is, I think, the reason why they were determined that the UN should give them everything that they wanted, and the UN gave them everything that they wanted, and the UN didn't care that the Greek Cypriots would say no. And I was told that by a senior UN official in New York in March of that year. We don't care what the Greek Cypriots do. Turkey will get its negotiating status with the European Union. That's what we want. That's exactly what happened. But, as I replied to the UN man, fine, I want that too. But beginning the negotiations is not ending the negotiations. Ah, that's another story. Well, I said exactly, that's another story. Another question.
Alexander Pastor, I'm chaplain here at the LSE. Mentioning bodies or influencing factors in politics, dare I bring up the religious communities in Cyprus.
You may.
In particular, what happens in the south, in the main part of Cyprus now, where the leadership of the religious community, the main religious community, to say, is making quite outspoken statements, and is, for all one can read it, attempting to influence public opinion.
Very much so.
With the background of a predecessor of his, but one being indeed also a political leader, I wonder what impact this kind of intervention can have. Is it to be seen as benign? Is it to be seen, I know it's powerful and forceful, but is it to be seen as benign? Is there anything equivalent in the north of Cyprus?
Well, the answer to the second question is no, there is nothing equivalent in the north, because there is no similar ecclesiastical structure in the Muslim faith as there is in any Christian.
But what I meant is giving us some personality, is the religious body evident in the north as it is in the south?